Imperfect Thriving, Episode 40, How to Find Happiness from Within with Paula Miller. Have you shared Imperfect Thriving with a friend yet? Even better, on your Instagram? It would be awesome if you would screenshot this episode and post it on your Insta story and tag Imperfect Thriving. If you tag me, I'll share it on my story. I'm Kathryn Ely, former attorney turned licensed counselor and coach. Oh yeah, and recovering perfectionist. It wasn't long ago that my self-criticism and fear kept me from having the self-worth, confidence, and courage to make my life my own. Through life lessons learned and by going back to school in my 40s, I am finally enjoying my life in a way I never thought possible, and it is amazing. I want you right here with me. No need for you to go back to school either. I created this podcast to show you the way to the imperfect thriving kind of life, based on what you value, filled with self-worth, confidence, way more joy, and no more regrets. So let's go.
My story began when I was in kindergarten and I was pulled out of the classroom by a dietitian. She sat me down to her office and she just looked at me. Like I said, I never forget that moment. But she said, "You are fat."
Have you ever thought to yourself, if I could just lose this weight, I will be happy? Or if I can just get my kids through to this age, I'll be less stressed. Or if I could live in this house, all of my troubles will disappear. If you have ever said any of these statements to yourself or something similar, you are not alone. More often than not, we look outside of ourselves to find happiness. And if you have ever said any of these statements to yourself and actually achieved the goal, lost that weight, or moved into that perfect house, you probably also know that your problems did not disappear and you were not happy all of a sudden. Today's guest struggled for most of her life to find happiness, and it was in the very last place that she looked that she actually found it. Today we have Paula Miller on the show. Paula is an RN of 22 years by day and a striving entrepreneur by night. She had battled obesity, body shame, and low self-esteem since kindergarten. Paula has competed in bodybuilding and powerlifting and was an avid CrossFitter for 7 years, all while battling hormone imbalances, infertility, and stage 3 adrenal fatigue. She has a deep desire to make an impact and serve others by helping others develop daily habits and a positive mindset. So without any further ado, let's welcome Paula to the show. Welcome to the show, Paula. I am so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Kathryn. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we met through a mutual friend, Adam. Think the world of him, right? And his million-pound mission and all that he's doing. Since then, I call her my new friend. I don't know if she calls me her new friend, but Tamar is also a good friend of yours.
Yes, absolutely. I adore her. We've had a lot of ups and downs. We officially met in September at an event that Adam was hosting down here in California, and we just been best buds since. We just hit it off. I picked her up at LAX airport, and it was nonstop chatter to our hotel for a 2-hour drive. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got to where you are today.
Well, I had an amazing childhood growing up, amazing parents. They've been married for 56 years as of last week, and very stable childhood. But my story began when I was in kindergarten and I was pulled out of the classroom by a dietitian. She sat me down to her office and she just looked at me. Like I said, I never forget that moment. But she said, "You are fat." And that stuck with me to this day. It's very traumatic for a 5-6-year-old to hear those words. And it left a scar on me. All those impressionable years, junior high, high school, college. So, yeah. Looking at pictures, I really wasn't that fat. I just mentioned this to my dad just recently, and he's like, oh, I remember that day, because he was a teacher there at the time. And he never told my mom. And my mom just found out probably a few months ago when I started telling my story.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, Paula, she goes, I am so sorry. And she goes, why did I? Anyway, so yeah.
That is just so hard. What did your little brain do when she told you that?
I guess it really didn't affect me until I got into a few years down the road. Even, fifth, sixth grade, even when I'm like, God, boys aren't paying attention to me. It's because I'm fat. Or I just had that no self-esteem, no self-worth. Then going into junior high, I never had a boyfriend, never went to prom. I went to back up a little bit. I did go to a one-room country schoolhouse where my mom taught me. So I was just kind of the shy. And then I go to town, the big town, to school. I went to class of size 2 to a 200. So that alone was just kind of, intimidating, and you just kind of kept to yourself a little bit and just kind of feeling your way through. But then, so I never really had a boyfriend, never went to prom, like I said. So again, it leads back to, it's because of the way I look, right? Then I was in ballet for 12 years. And my senior year, she goes, oh, well, you can't move up or progress into the number 1 class because of my weight. I don't look like the other girls. So again, it's that body shame, that the identity that I'm fat. Again, looking back, my mom's like, Paula, you weren't that fat. I was maybe a size 12, not horrible. And then I was going to go into the Air Force that senior year because Top Gun came out, right? Tom Cruise.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. And I got that bomber jacket for Christmas, and I just wore it out. I just wore it every day. I just loved it. And so I'm like, I want to go into the Air Force. So again, the recruiter came out. I had to lose 20 pounds even to get in. So my dad got me up going for walks every day. And I tried all the diets, the cabbage soup diet, Jenny Craig, whatever diet was trending at the time. And I didn't lose the weight. So then I'm like, okay, I'm a failure. So it just snowballs. And then I go to college. And I, again, never had a boyfriend, but I started drinking a lot, just college days, right? And experimenting with a lot of things. I guess I could put it that way. And every guy that touched me or paid any attention to me, I'm like, oh my God, okay. And again, I just had no self-worth. It was just like any attention is better than anything, right? It's just, they paid attention to me. So yeah, it kind of went down a dark hole there too.
So I definitely want to hear the rest of your story, but there's so much that I want to ask you just from what you've already said.
Right.
And you mentioned that maybe it didn't start affecting you. The fact that the dietitian called you fat didn't start affecting you necessarily when you were 5 or 6, but I'm kind of hearing that it did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of hearing that your self-esteem or lack of started at that moment, really, even though you didn't realize it until later.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So it really started showing up like it often does, right? When we start wondering what boys think about us.
Right.
When what they start to think matters, then we really start looking at ourselves through a microscope in very critical ways because we're trying to decide what is it that they exactly want and how can I be that?
100%.
Right? Mm-hmm. So tell me how, once you realized that that was affecting you throughout your childhood and your high school years, kind of paint the picture of what your life was like and the thoughts that you had about yourself.
Oh gosh, it was constantly, every morning I woke up, I'm like, okay, what can I wear that will, going through, I'm kind of getting emotional now thinking about all this stuff, but I was the 3rd or 5th wheel through junior high and high school. All my girlfriends had boyfriends, and I drove them around while they were making out with their boyfriends in the back seats of the car. So tears were shed driving my friends around. I'm like, I wish I could be in their shoes. Am I not wearing the right clothes? Is my hair not right? If I can only lose 20 pounds, a boy would like me. And never did I think that if I just had a little more self-confidence in myself, that they would like me for who I am and not for what I look like. But back then, in junior high, you don't think about those things. It's all how you look, right?
Right.
And I had amazing friends, don't get me wrong. They were amazing, but it is what it is.
So what sort of behavior do you think that lack of self-esteem led you to?
Well, when I went to college, like I said,
Hmm.
it was like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like I said, any guy that even said hi to me and grabbed my arm, I'm like, okay. It just led me to horrible behaviors and bad habits.
So yeah, it makes, complete and total sense, right? Alcohol and drugs
Hmm.
let your inhibitions go.
Absolutely.
And when you have no self-esteem or self-worth, you're always inhibited. You're like in a straitjacket because of how you categorize yourself, right? So letting go of that inhibitions is a complete escape for a short time of feeling the way you want to feel about yourself. But then what happens when that feeling goes away? How does it come back? What is that like?
Yeah. And it was horrible, Kathryn. I laid in bed many nights in tears at college and like, what am I doing to myself? Why am I acting this way? And that vicious cycle, the next night, same thing happens again. I did become aware of what I was doing,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
you
But
just,
the need
those
was
old
still
thoughts,
there.
those old limited beliefs, those old thoughts. Yeah. It's just like,
Drove the need to feel good about
yes,
yourself. So
absolutely.
until the need goes away,
Hmm.
the behavior continues, even though you can see it from like the 30,000-foot view and know this is not good for me,
Hmm.
but I still need it.
Exactly. I was aware, but I craved that attention.
And I see that with so many women who do not value themselves. They look for men to pick them. There's never any thought about what do I want? Who do I want? What is good for me that fits my values when it comes to relationships? You don't even get there. It's the thought of somebody just pick me,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Just pick me. Do what you
And
want with me. Just
yes,
pick me.
yeah, exactly. Do what you want. Yeah. And it's funny because you hear, oh, you have such a great personality. You have such a pretty face. And I'm like, I don't give a crap. You don't hear those things. It's
No,
just
you
all
hear that's a consolation prize,
mhm.
and that's
Right.
not what I want.
Exactly.
So, how did you talk to yourself throughout that time? Can you remember like the
Mhm.
negative things or the self-limiting beliefs that you had that you said to yourself as you were growing up and going through that?
Yeah. It was always, I was fat. That's the only things that I thought about. It's just like, what can I do to get rid of this weight? My whole life has been consumed by dieting. Yeah. Even through, like I say, I was never really obese, just that chunky, big boned, as they say.
Just not tiny.
Exactly. And social media nowadays too. It's just even it wasn't as bad back then like it is now. I can't oh my gosh. I feel so horrible for the girls nowadays and boys going through with social media nowadays. I don't know how they do it. So I'm thankful back then. I can imagine back then what
Yeah.
it'd been
Well,
tenfold.
perfectionism is going up because of it.
Hmm.
Right? Because everything looks more perfect than it is. And we judge,
Hmm.
especially at that age, they judge themselves against their peers. And it sure does look like they're perfect on Instagram, right?
Looks like it, yeah.
Looks like it, exactly. So, kind of take me through a day in the life of Paula when you were consumed by dieting and what that looked like for you, how it affected your relationships, how it affected everything. What was that like?
Well, finally, I got out of that environment that in college. My parents were like, you're out of there, moved across the state. And I got perfect A's. I was great at school and didn't party much. Well, then you kind of started getting back into, those that same partying and whatnot, meeting those friends. You always find them again. But anyway, I
Mhm.
met my husband. Thank the Lord, because he settled me down. He saw I was going down that same path. He's like, you're out of there. Let's move to Omaha. Moved to Omaha, got married, settled down, and you got comfortable being married and just kind of, yeah, finally I found somebody who loves me for who I am. I was just happy and started gaining that weight over the years. So 10 years goes down the road. Probably I tipped the scales at 265. I was bursting at the seams at size 24. I'm like, okay, this is it. I really never did a whole lot of dieting exercise. I was just, oh, I found somebody who loves me and I was comfortable. But when I tipped the scales at 265, I was like, whoa, I'll never forget it either. I saw a picture of me. It was 4th of July picture. And I avoided pictures.
Mhm.
I never wanted a picture taken of me. And if they did, I didn't want to look at them. And I saw a picture of me and I'm like, holy shit, is that me? Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. So that was the tipping scale, so to speak, that led me down the path of dieting, exercising. And I became obsessed. I lost over 100 pounds and I got into bodybuilding. I'm inspired to, oh my God, I want to get that 6-pack now. And started doing bodybuilding shows. And the thing was, I had that 6-pack and I still woke up and I wanted more. I wasn't happy. It just blows my mind. I look at back now, I'm like, oh my God, I would die to have, it's just like, I just can't believe it. So happiness really comes from within. And you see people that are a size 0, and I'm sure they're still not happy with themselves.
That if you have the thoughts of, I'm not enough, there is nothing in the world that you can do to ever feel like you are enough. You could look perfect to everyone else in every aspect of your life, and you're not going to be satisfied until you have not just gotten to self-acceptance, but self-love.
Amen.
So how long did you spend on the dieting, the weightlifting? Well, you were bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFitting, right?
Yes. So I went from the aesthetics portion with bodybuilding, and I kind of got bored with that after a while. And well, with the bodybuilding towards the last year or so, I started gaining a little bit of weight. And looking back, my metabolism was shot because I was working out 4 hours a day and eating 1,200 calories. So eventually my body wasn't happy with me, right? So I'm like, well, CrossFit was kind of coming around at 2009, so my 40th birthday. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to join CrossFit. Maybe that'll help me get some of those few extra pounds that I gained off, right? So I joined CrossFit and I drank the Kool-Aid hard. It was my life for 7 years. Then I started again, the weight kind of crept. I would work out still. I could probably do it even twice a day and eating very clean and still gaining weight. Someone says, maybe it's your hormones. And so I went and saw a functional medicine practitioner, got my hormones tested, and they're like, wow, you got stage 3 adrenal fatigue. And they said, if you would have gone probably another year at the pace that you were going, your organs would have shut down and you'd have been hospitalized.
Oh my God.
That was kind of a wake-up call for me. Like, I'm doing too much. My body's too stressed. I need to rest.
Explain to us a little bit about what, did you say third stage?
Third stage, yes.
What third stage adrenal fatigue means for your body.
Yeah, so my cortisol levels I could not get to sleep at night at all. I had insomnia so bad. And then when I woke up in the morning, I needed caffeine to get me through the day. It's like picking up my legs to walk. I was so exhausted, but I'd still go work out. I think they say stage 1 is, you wouldn't even know if you're in stage 1 unless you got your blood drawn. But stage 4, your adrenals are pretty much shot. They're not releasing any hormones. So you would have been hospitalized. Yeah, I don't know if you could really recover from that. It would take years to recover from that. And even today, I'm still trying to recover from my stage 3 adrenal fatigue.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2015, about 5 years ago. Yeah.
So for those of us that don't have a medical background, I know what cortisol does, but can you explain a little bit more about cortisol and the adrenal gland and how that actually works or affects your body?
Yeah, it's like that fight or flight. It's adrenaline, basically. And after a while, if you overuse it, it shuts off. Your body can't function. So you just really, really, really need to rest. And so they told me I could not have any caffeine or couldn't work out for 6 months. And for a person who was obsessed with working out, that was stressful. Went through a little depression. And they said, you can walk. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Walking,
what's
really?
that going to do?
Right.
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 So yeah, that makes total sense to me because I hear it with my clients a lot of time. I'm hearing it with you that there was a lot of rigid sort of all or nothing thinking. If you were in, you were going to be all in, right?
100%.
No halfway anything.
No.
So of course you're going to get depressed when you're obsessed and all in with this exercise, thinking that this is your answer, right? This is it. for what you want to be, who you're going to be, and then you're told you can't do that at all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I am exactly 100% all or nothing. And then, so I move out here to California, leaving behind because I got into powerlifting too after my adrenal fatigue. So they says you can do heavy lifting. Well, in CrossFit, I loved lifting heavy. So I'm like, powerlifting is my jam. So I eventually made it to nationals, got some national records in that. So I move out here to California and left everybody behind, my husband, my family, my friends, my tribe, my gyms, everything. And I literally went to nothing. I didn't work out. I lost all motivation, lost all willpower. And yeah, I didn't do anything for probably close to a year. I didn't work out at all. So it's talking about all or nothing.
So
yeah.
I have a couple of questions about that. I do want to hear about like the why behind leaving everything and coming to California for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think happened when you got there that led you to not do anything?
Well, and that's the thing.
What were your thoughts?
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, what is wrong with me? I know what to do. I know how to do it. I've been doing this for 15 years and I know what to eat, what not to eat. But why can't I get my butt out of bed and do it? Right. So I guess I just never knew it until then, but I needed that external motivation, that accountability, because I always had a workout partner. I always had a coach, whether it was with my bodybuilding, with CrossFit, you have a program that you follow. And with powerlifting, I had a coach. So I always had that accountability and always had that program. And I get out here and I'm like, oh, okay, now what do I do? It was insane.
And connectedness and support.
100%.
That's what I'm hearing is not only that accountability, but you left all the people behind who loved and supported you. It's not that you lost their love and support, but you weren't experiencing it on a daily basis.
Right.
What effect do you think that had on you?
Well, I was depressed. I really was. Like more of high functioning depression, I guess you could say. I mean, going to work, no one would think I was, but I get home and I'm like, yeah, I was depressed. Just leaving my family and my husband behind, right?
Yeah, right. I can totally see that. Not having satisfaction in your intimate love relationship domain and your friends and community domain and your family domain. All of your level of satisfaction in those domains were very low at that time, which of course affects how you feel.
Yes.
Affects your mood.
Yes. Again, your self-esteem, your self-worth, what's wrong with me, all comes in play too. And yeah, it was a struggle. Not gonna lie.
Wow. Hormone issues stemmed by, rigid beliefs and weight issues. A lot going on. Then move by yourself to California. What prompted you to move by yourself to California?
Initially, when I started being a travel nurse, my husband and I were going to sell everything and we were just going to travel the country in an RV and good life, right? But I moved to a travel assignment 3 hours away, which was crisis pay. The pay was very good. And it was only 3 hours from home. I was able to come home on the weekend. So it was just perfect, getting really good pay and close to home. So I stayed there for like 2 years. So my husband, who sold his business thinking that we were going to travel. And so he kind of had to build that back up again. So I just kind of continued to travel, came out here to California and loved my job out here. So I found out that you only need to work 5 years to accrue the government benefits. And I love my job out here, which is not many people can say that, which is huge. And so I just decided to stick out here for 3 years and then hopefully go back to Omaha for my other 2. Like I said, you only need 5 years. And so I'm out here for 3 years.
So totally get it. Yeah, absolutely get the pull to that. But it's also a very good example of how we can be extremely fulfilled in one area, right? The pursuit or career domain can completely fill us up, but without some level of satisfaction in the other domains that are most important to us, it's not enough.
Yep. And being lost, I was lost. I didn't know what direction to go. I'm like, I just can't go on living like this. And I lost my identity, my fitness identity.
Yes.
So I'm like, who am I? And I was sick and tired of being consumed by diet and exercise. My life, my mind, everything was consumed by it for years. Well, since kindergarten, right? So I'm like, there's more to life than this. So in a way, that year, I guess I did a lot of reflection, and it just led me down to the path where there's more to life than how I look. Yes, I want to lose weight. I need to lose a little bit more weight, but I'm losing it as respecting myself. I eat healthy because I love myself. I exercise and move because I love myself, not because I wanted to get to a number on the scale.
So do you think it was a form of like hitting rock bottom that made you look within to figure out a different way?
Yep.
Tell me,
absolutely.
Tell me more about that, what that was like.
Yeah, I spent many nights crying here in my studio apartment, and I did, like I said, a lot of reflection. And I just said that I've listened to a podcast with Mark Crandall with the Purpose Chasers Academy, and something really hit me. I said, I had an aha moment. I had a few of these, and I knew there was something out there for me, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know my why. I didn't know my purpose. Mm-hmm. And I know I needed to find it, because my why and my purpose, before I didn't even know if I knew it ever, really. It was focused on getting down to a certain number on the scale and looking a certain way. At 50 years old, I'm like, I need to figure this out. So I went through his academy, and I found my why, and I found my purpose. I found my calling, and just my life changed then. And I'll never forget, I went home to Omaha, and I was flying back, and I was sitting in the toilet, 30,000 feet on a Delta airline toilet. And they had a mirror kind of sitting in front of you or off to the side a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I looked in there, I'm like, oh my God, for the first time in my life, I said, I love you. And it's just amazing how finding your purpose can bring so much joy and satisfaction into your life. It's just amazing when you know that you have a vision.
Yeah.
And you have a mission in life. Yeah. It changed my life. It really did.
You found your value.
Yes.
You found your worth. It was there all the time.
It was.
You just didn't know it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It was a process still. That was back in January. And I've done a lot of self-work since then. And my love for myself has become deeper. And it's just amazing. Learning to do positive affirmations. I call it my morning jam. I do journaling, affirmations, and meditation. And meditation has definitely changed my life. It's been a game changer for me. And basically the whole morning jam, journaling, meditations, and affirmations. And I was challenged to do my affirmations standing in the mirror, naked. And again, another game changer, aha moments. It was hard. I was in tears looking at myself in the mirror, every roll, every wrinkle. And you say those affirmations, you're beautiful, you're worthy. I really didn't believe it at first, but the more you say it, the more you start to believe it, right?
Wow, what a moment of stepping outside of the comfort zone.
Oh my God. So, and then you kind of get to a point, I was challenged again to start rubbing coconut oil on each body part and thinking about it and appreciating each body part as you're massaging coconut oil. Again, naked.
So you really begin to feel and experience what your body is and what it can do more so than what it looks like.
Looks like, yes. Mm-hmm. The strength and the wisdom, you look at wrinkles and all the aging and it's like, oh, it's wisdom, all the years of experience and life lessons I've learned. And
oh, I love that. My daughter is a swimmer, and I always encouraged her when she was in her bathing suit to go to swimming, to think about her body and what it could do and how powerful she was, because I never wanted her to worry about what she looked like when she put it on. Oh, I really wanted it to be about who she was in it.
Yes.
And what that meant she was doing for herself if she was wearing her bathing suit. That meant she was getting stronger. That meant she was doing something for herself, in hopes that she would not be self-conscious and worried about what she looked like the way I did and the way so many people do, right? It's very confining.
Your daughter, she should be very grateful that she has a mom that was giving her that message at that age.
Oh, well, listen, maybe, but I'm sure there are plenty of other things that I've done that she's talking to the counselor about. I encourage all of my children to have their own counselor because I know I was not perfect.
Well, exactly. You're not perfect.
You
Nobody
can,
is.
you're welcome to have a counselor, and I will encourage you to do so. Absolutely.
Oh, that's
Well,
funny.
I have had the best time talking to
Oh,
you
yes.
today and for you sharing your wonderful story. I know it was not easy, so I really
Mhm.
appreciate you
No,
doing that
absolutely.
with us and for us. Tell me about where we can find out more about you and about your podcast.
Well, I have a podcast just started actually a few weeks ago. It's called Reclaiming You. And you
Love
can join
that.
my private Facebook group, Reclaiming You. And you can email me at paula@reclaimingyou.me. And I'm in the process of getting some courses. Getting Out of Your Head is one of them. And my morning jam is another one I'll be coming down the road. So,
Well, absolutely love that. I encourage all of y'all to check that out. And I'll put links in the show notes for
mhm.
sure. So I like to end every podcast with asking my guests, what is one thing that you suggest we all do today, one imperfect action that we can take to move closer to our best lives?
I would say get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Just that fear of failure. You never really grow until you get rid of that fear. It's just stepping outside your comfort zone. You got to.
I love that. I second that motion. Absolutely. In fact, not only does your comfort zone not grow, it decreases and anxiety increases as
Mm-hmm.
you feel the need to stay in it. It only makes you stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm right there with you, Paula. I think everybody should do one thing today that is outside of their comfort zone.
Amen.
Love that. Now I'm going to ask you the same thing that I asked Tamar before I let you go. I'm going to put you on the spot
Uh-oh.
to see if you will join us for some Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives the week that all of our episodes come out. I just need to see you women more often, and I think that our groups need to see you more often. So can
Let's
I
do
get you
it.
on the hook for that?
Absolutely. I'm
Okay.
excited. Let's
I
do
think
it.
all of my listeners need to come to the Imperfect Thriving Facebook and to your Facebook group so that they can see your beautiful face and your beautiful self and not just get to hear you. So we're going to get that in the works for everybody. How does that sound?
I love it.
Okay.
I'm excited about that.
Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. And for all of our listeners, go out today, step outside of your comfort zone, do one thing that's going to get you closer to the life that you want to have. And I will see you right back here, same time, same place next week. If you are enjoying this podcast, would you take a moment to go to iTunes and subscribe? It is so easy to do, and it would mean a lot. Imperfect Thriving is a part of the Practice of the Practice podcast network, a network of podcasts seeking to help you thrive imperfectly. To hear other podcasts like the Bomb Mom podcast, Beta Male Revolution, or Empowered and Unapologetic, go to practiceofthepractice.com/network. This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to the subject matter covered. This is given with the understanding that neither the host, Practice of the Practice, or guests are providing legal, mental health, or other professional information. If you need a professional, I encourage you to reach out to one.